Hello, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours. It's Tuesday, it's 9 a.m. Pacific, and we meet every week to answer your questions about Alexa development and ambient computing and anything you've got related to Alexa. So with that, I've got a couple of quick announcements I want to share with you before we talk to our guests here. The first one is, if you missed it, we had a tech talk that we published last week with my good friend Mark Yoshitaki, who is the director of Ask Tech, Alexa Skills Kit technology. So when you think about things like the VS Code Toolkit, or the SDKs, or even a lot of the developer tools that you use in the browser, Mark's team owns all of that. And so he and I sat down and talked about a lot of the new announcements that came out of Alexa Live. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that, make sure you check it out. We'll post that in the comments. Another thing, this is an announcement. I haven't talked about this publicly before, is that we launched something new called Alexa Insider. This is a new content hub. It's meant to be a place for you to find all the things that are going on, whether that's new content, new blog posts, new videos, even new events and information about what's going on with the world of Alexa development. And so you can find the Alexa Insider at alexa.design/insider. That's an easy one to remember. I also want to make sure for any of you that have been thinking about getting into the Aging and Engaging Hackathon that we've been running over the last 2 months, there's 1 week left. You have 1 week left to enter, and all you need to do is go to our website on DevPost. DevPost has our hackathon being hosted there, and you need to submit your entry, I think, by the end of the week. So make sure, if you're thinking about participating in a hackathon, that you get all your stuff entered by the end of this week. And the last thing, and this is a bit of bad news, I guess, is that we were looking forward to finally launching the Artemis Space Shuttle, which has Alexa on board, later this week. The plan, I think, was either tomorrow or Thursday. But because of Hurricane Ian, things have been pushed yet again. They've actually had to take the rocket, put it back in the hangar, make sure everything's locked down, and obviously for everyone's safety and the success of the mission, we want to make sure that goes off without a hitch. So that will be delayed yet again. Hopefully we'll have a really exciting update about that soon. But if you like space, did anybody see the rocket that they shot up just recently and it crashed into an asteroid on purpose? It reminded me of the movie Armageddon, where they wanted to shoot something up there and kind of destroy or deflect an asteroid. And that was the whole point of it. They were testing to see whether or not we could do that. And it was successful. It was very, very cool. So just a little space news for you today. Okay, with that, I've got some guests. They've been very patient as we got through the announcements today, and I want to make sure that I introduce each of them. So what I'll do is I'll introduce all three of you, and then I'd love for you to kind of share with us what your role here is at Amazon, what you work on. But they are all part of the Skill Insights team. If you've ever gotten one of those emails about your skill that says, hey, here's some recommendations we think you implement, or maybe even work with the Alexa Skill Coach, they are the guys behind the scenes helping make all of that stuff happen. So with that, I have Amkar, I have Shubhashis, and I have Rajat. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having us.
Certainly. So we'll, just because of the order we have things on the screen, Shubhashis, do you want to go first and introduce yourself and your role?
Sure, Jeff. Thanks for having you. Hi, everyone on the call. So my name is Shubhashish. I've been with Amazon and the Alexa certification team for the last 3 years. I'm the program manager for the Alexa Skill Insights team, where we share recommendations with developers to help them improve their skills. Yep, that's about it. Bye. Thank you.
Okay. How about you, Rajat?
So my name is Rajat, and I've been operations manager at Amazon for 6 years now. Take care of Skills Insights team. So every skill email that goes out has manually been tested by one of the team members in my team, and we try to help our customers as much as possible.
Excellent. And how about you, Amkar?
Hey guys, thanks for having us, Jeff. We've been attending these office hours for long, so it's great to have an opportunity to be here. Hey guys, I'm Omkar Phatak. This is my 8th year with Amazon. About 3.5 years ago, I joined the Alexa team, worked as a developer advocate before, then worked into the now program manager with the Alexa Insights team. I love my job, helping developers improve the quality of their skills and helping them gain the quality and the engagement that their work deserve. So great to have an opportunity to interact with you guys here. Please feel free to shoot any questions you might have. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is great. We've got a bunch of folks in the house. It's always good to see a full crowd here for office hours. But Umkar, I think you've actually done some work with Brian Tarbox. He's here in the audience. But we also have Habuma and A. Witters and W. Giorgio and Kevin Evans, Dipanshu and Abdul, David Curley and Gavin Watson, Hawk 2000. We got all sorts of cool people here today. Trade Last is here as always. Fang Elma's here. A couple of you were kind enough to remind me that, in fact, the hackathon entries ended yesterday. And so I'm bringing some bad news. I just told you a second ago that you still have time, and I'm wrong. I was working from a sheet of notes, and it looks like I might have been slightly outdated on that specific fact. So my apologies, but I look forward to seeing all of the submissions that you guys submitted to the hackathon, because I get to be one of the judges. So I'm really looking forward to that. Other things that are coming through in the chat here. I don't think I missed anything else. Malero said that they created 3 prototypes for the hackathon, and they didn't like any of them, so they didn't move forward with those. Okay. It looks like everything all there is good. So for the 3 of you, I'd like to talk about skill insights a little bit. And I think it's first important to talk about, like, what is the Alexa Skill Insights team? What do you guys do? And how do you help developers make their skills better? So who would like to take the first one?
I'll take that question.
Okay.
So we start obviously from thinking backwards from the customer. So we pick skills, we test them thoroughly, try to find those optimal improvements that can be enhanced in skill. It could be from how we can enhance the description or the example phrase or the voice design, go into nitty-gritty, and then come up with a bunch of recommendations for uniquely for the skill. We then collate all those recommendations, put it in a email with all the resource links, which can help developer understand why is it important, what exactly it's required for, and then that email goes out to the developers to the email which we have. We then also track the resubmissions. We also observe. We also have office hours. The participants where developers come speak to us, and we all try to help them as much as possible. We measure the performance of their skills, how their skill has improved from that point, and then again we don't just leave it there. Again, after a point of time, we again retest those skills. We send new recommendations once the skill has enhanced from one point to another. So if somebody has seen an email, the email should have come from Alexa Skills Insight at Amazon.com, and you might have seen those information about their skill specifically. Okay, this is the skill, this is the recommendation, and these are the links that can help you to implement those recommendations.
Very cool. And I would imagine a lot of the folks in our audience have probably received emails like that before. But that leads to a good point. One of the things that a lot of people may not realize is that you guys have your own dedicated inbox for talking about these kinds of skill insights and the recommendations that they're being offered. And so I think we've talked about this. It's okay to share publicly. But if you guys are looking for an email address to reach out, again, keep it focused on Alexa Skill Insights and those recommendations. It's not a dedicated support channel like the Contact Us is. But if you want to talk to the Skill Insights team about their recommendations or how those things work, you can find them at alexa-skills-insights at amazon.com. And I should have done one of these. Here, I'll do this so I can put it up on the screen. Alexa.skills. We'll just do this on the fly, right? Skills Insights at Amazon.com. Just like that. And so that email address connects you with this team directly. If you have questions about recommendations or maybe ways to implement those things, this is a great opportunity to talk with those folks. So highly recommended. All right. That moves on to our second question, which is for developers that may not be familiar with this program and some of the insights that are available to them, how can they access those recommendations?
Sure, Jeff, I can take this up. So, as Rajat mentioned earlier, we share these recommendations over mail with the developer, and which you are helpful to put it into a chat box. We also conduct office hours with the developers. So, in the mail, there's a blurb or via which the developers can reach back to us, and we set up office hours with them where we take them if they have any developer queries, we help them through or any questions regarding how do they implement those particular recommendations. We try to solve them as well. Sometimes if it's too technical in nature, yeah, we might struggle with it, but we try to solve as many questions as possible from our side. Uh, we also have added skill insight recommendations on the skill quality dashboard, skill quality coach dashboard, so developers can access the recommendations from the skill quality coach dashboard as well. Recently, we also started a Slack channel where we can share the invite link over here where the developers can connect with us directly. If there are any questions regarding the recommendations or how do they want to improve their skills, they can ask questions and we can reply to them over there as well.
Excellent. Well, that's perfect. So lots and lots of ways to get a hold of and interact with you guys as you're looking to get better recommendations for your skills. So let's talk about some of those recommendations for a second. What are some of the key takeaways that you have seen as you think about all the different skills you've had an opportunity to play with and interact with? What are the things that you see the best skills, the most engaging skills? What are the aspects or the traits of those skills that you can share?
Sure, I'll take that up, Jeff. Thanks for bringing this up. So I think we are privileged to go through so many great skills on a regular basis, and having done this for a couple of years now, going in and out through a lot of skills, I could list out a few pointers or few patterns that I've seen which definitely work. To begin with, I think a great use case that is actually serving the customer need or is engaging enough for customers is half the battle won. And if you're serving something that customers are looking for, or customers would find interesting, and it's a product market fit, I think you have half the battle won there. So that is definitely one thing that's going for a lot of high engagement skills. And second thing, what is in general, what is the unique value proposition you're providing, and how the quality of the content that you're providing, right? That I think that is a hallmark of most of the great skills that I've seen so far. Besides this, a robust voice user interface and high NLU accuracy for your interaction model also helps. So you should be able to handle most of the customer utterances that are coming your way. I think looking at some of the insights tools on the console that can actually help you improve the accuracy always helps. So keep an eye on that. See if there are any unresolved utterances that you can resolve. Continue iterating so that you can serve most of the customer utterances that are coming your way. That definitely helps. One more thing is that could help your skill, and I've seen this with a lot of skills, the personalization. So if you can remember a user's first session, and when he comes back, you greet him with a personalized suggestion or a personalized welcome, which and also help him save his progress from last time for game skills, for example. Users certainly like that. So any kind of personalization you can bring in terms of the content is definitely something that users like. Multimodal. Next point I would make is a multimodal, right? So I think APL has opened up a whole new door for so many great experiences that we see, and let me take this opportunity to congratulate all the great skills that are out there that have made great things happen with APL. I think that just opens up a new door for you, right? So I would suggest multimodal is definitely one opportunity that you should not let go for your skill. And besides that, think about retention features which help customers keep coming back or remember your skill. Make it easy for them to remember your skill and come back. And lastly, I would say keep serving fresh content. Think about content that creates anticipation and how you could get back your users to be interested, have that hook, so that they keep coming back for more. Those are some of the key patterns that I would talk about. But I'm sure Jeff can tell you a lot more about this. Thank you.
For sure. I mean, I spend a lot of time thinking about this, and specifically the one example you gave, which is, you presented it so matter-of-factly, right? Just have great content that your customers want. It seems like such a simple thing, but that is an impossibly hard task sometimes, to make sure that you have the right content for the right audience, and that you're keeping it fresh, as you said there at the end. I'm working on a skill right now. I'm doing some live coding and things just to keep everything sharp. And the skill is meant for Alexa skill developers. And so one of the aspects of this skill is meant to be a Q&A. And so you can say things like, tell me about APL, or how do I get started with APL? Or, tell me about Alexa skill insights. Where can I learn more? Like, it should be a big Q&A, kind of like what we do here with office hours. but it also will play any speech con for you. It'll play any sound effect for you. It'll do all sorts of other things that developers would want to have available to them. And the more this grows and the more that I build it, the more I find like, wow, do I need a lot of content? Because it just compiles and grows on top of itself. On top of the fact that I'm going to internationalize it, which means everything that the skill says is also in a database with copies for Japanese and for German and for French. And like, it's an exponential growth of content very, very quickly. But I think that those are tremendous recommendations for folks. And I think as people continue to look at the insights that they're receiving from your team, I think they'll find ways to improve their skills as well. In fact, someone said here in the chat, I implemented some of the recommendations suggested by the insights team, and I saw the increased traction immediately. For one skill, the monthly customer base increased 250%. Like, that's amazing. And I hope more people will take this to heart. There's a lot of things that these little recommendations, sometimes they seem small, sometimes they're huge, but these kinds of recommendations really do go a long way. This team spends a lot of time thinking about what works for skills and what would work best for yours. All right. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. Also, if for those of you that are familiar with our good friend here, Brian Tarbox, we actually wrote a blog post just a couple of months ago. I think it was May, about what he's doing with his skill and how he used Alexa Skill Insights. So if you'd like to see that blog post or read more about what Brian is doing, he's one of our good friends that's here almost every week for office hours. I think we can post a link to that here in the chat. And another thing to keep in mind is if you don't want to go the email route, or you'd like to engage and talk about skill insights, maybe with a larger community of developers, we also have in the Alexa Slack community we have put together. We have a channel in there specifically for skill insights. And so if you're not already a member of our Slack community, you can join it by going to alexa.design/Slack. And in there is a channel called Skill Insights. In that channel, there hasn't been a ton of activity yet, but it's only been recently created. But the guys you see here on screen, as well as the rest of their team, are there monitoring and having conversations with developers just like you about Alexa Skill Insights. So if you want to go there and talk about how you think this is a good idea, or what do you think about this as my approach to solving this issue, a great place to go do that. You can always have those conversations in the general channel as well. But if they're very specific to Skill Insights and you want to make sure that this team sees it, that's the place to go. Okay, I've talked about Slack. I've talked about the blog post. We've talked about Skill Insights, but we have a tremendous number of questions and comments in the chat. So let me scroll up here just a little bit and make sure that I don't miss anything, because there's been a large number of conversations. But the first one I think actually came from Brian Tarbox. And so Brian was asking, he was working on sizing his Alexa buttons in APL. And Alexander Martin, who is a fantastic APL developer, he runs APL.ninja, if you've been to that website, suggested that he use the button minimum width property, which solved his problem instantly. Except the button minimum width isn't actually mentioned anywhere in our Alexa Skills Kit documentation. So I've already flagged this as an issue, and I will funnel that over to my Tech Docs team here in just a little while. But he's saying, I don't think I could have found that without asking Slack, which is both great and not. It's great. That's a great sign for Slack, because it means that the people there are knowledgeable and helpful and friendly, which is great. But it's bad because our technical documentation should be an encyclopedia. You should be able to find literally every aspect of building for Alexa, and every property and API and everything should be there. So we'll have them take a look what's going on there. Drew Cosgrove wanted to give Amkar a shout out for his previous help and encouragement. So nice work, Amkar. You're making a lot of friends. That's great. Let's see. Malero says, I have 2 skills that have been sitting in review for 10 plus days with no word from the certification team. They're not new skills, and it's never taken this long. I'm starting to think there may be a bug with the skill submission form. I don't know about that, but Malero, have you filled out a contact us request? I don't imagine that this would take very long, and we do have our DAG team on behind the scenes, but they would need to know, what your we call it a vendor ID is, or they would need to know which skill you're talking about, so that our DAG team behind the scenes, the developer advocacy group, can go take a look at that stuff for you. So if you want to share that privately with me on Slack, or if you're comfortable sharing your skill ID here in the chat, I don't think that there's any reason not to share a skill ID. That's not personal information. But if that's okay with you, then we can get our team to take a look at it for you, even while we're here in the broadcast. All right, so Malera, we'll take a look at that. But 10 days does seem like a long time. And the fact that you think there might be a bug with the skill submission form suggests that maybe something went wrong. Who knows? All right, someone on LinkedIn, I don't have their name, said, I have a Fire TV app for videos, and I want to implement custom, what's going on? I want to implement custom Alexa utterances in the app. For example, Alexa, show details for the actor Salman. Alexa, show the related reviews, show movie ratings. How can I do this? This is a rather complex. Alexa, stop. This is a complex problem because what you're talking about is a Fire TV application that you want to build Alexa into directly. The trick here is that doesn't work very naturally. Alexa skills, for the most part, are pretty standalone. And while there are some tricks and some hacks that you can use to kind of combine Alexa functionality with other interactive kinds of things, it's not in any direct fashion. So as an example, let's say that I had a mobile app and a user could modify a list of items that they want to shop for Christmas. I could also have an Alexa skill that allows them to enter items onto that list as well. But the only way that those two applications really work together is that they share a database in some way. So they're both talking to the same API maybe, or they're grabbing the data from the same data source. But when you're talking about having a Fire TV app that you want to embed Alexa inside, really what you're talking about is having an Alexa skill that is completely independent and separate of your skill. And it just happens to be able to talk to the same data. I don't think that I know of a way where you could just build Alexa directly into any other app. There are things that you can do. We have not skill connections, but we have a number of ways where, like in a mobile app, you can fire up an Alexa skill from another app, but to have it run inside your app is not really a thing that I've seen very specifically. So that being said, you could do this, but you would need the user to be authenticated on both. You'd need to be aware of what they're doing with the Fire TV app at the exact moment that they talk to the skill to be able to say, oh, they're watching a thing or whatever it is. This is what's happening right now. They'd share the data. It could communicate that way, but they would not be built together. If you want to build your own, though, if you want to build your own voice assistant directly into your Fire TV app, I might recommend looking at using Lex. Lex is an AWS service that's behind the scenes. You can build what is basically your own chatbot, not very complex to build. In fact, very similar to building an Alexa skill. You wouldn't be using Alexa's voice. You'd instead be using one of the many poly voices that are available. But that might also be a solution for you if that's something you're considering. So that is a very long answer to your question, but hopefully that helps. All right. W. Morgan on Twitch says, I have a question for later. How can I enable account linking via the skill.json file? I'm using Cloud Deployment Kit, I think CDK, to deploy the skill via the CloudFormation. And right now, there's no way to have it in the JSON file. I would have to manually from the CLI run the ask CLI command. How can I enable account linking via the skill.json file? So I want to think about this for a second. I'm opening up my skill JSON. I think what you're talking about is turning on the specific interface. So I don't know that I fully understand your question, and I want to make sure I don't go off on some weird tangent. You want to enable account linking via the skill.json file. So I think, I want to make sure I get this right, that in the interfaces, interfaces isn't even where account linking is done. How do I recommend you do this? I don't think you can do it the way that you're trying to do it. I'm thinking that our audience here is also going to have some insights and thoughts about this. It sounds to me like this has actually been answered in the chat, but I want to make sure that we talk about how to solve this. And so it sounds like they've given you a link to the documentation on how to define account linking in your skill manifest. But I don't know how to do that myself, and now I want to see the documentation. So we'll see if we can't pull that up as well. K-Man Studio said, "Hey, did you see what I said on Slack about my skill?" I don't know that I did. K-Man Studios. Did you say in the Alexa Slack in general? Are you K-Man there also, or is it another name? Give me a little more info and I can see what you've got. Or you can just drop it here. Yeah, A. Witter said, you can't. Account linking doesn't feature in the skill JSON. I'm going to keep moving on, but we'll probably revisit this account linking question. Drew Cosgrove says, as I understand it, the fallback intent would prevent me from processing wrong answers as they would be filtered out to the generic fallback intent. Agreed? Yes and no. I think it depends on, I love being able to say it depends, but it really does depend on how you've built your interaction model. I built a skill that is a trivia game. And in that trivia game, obviously there's one right answer and then there's all the wrong answers. And so I had to think about a way where I could still catch any wrong answer that I have. And so what I ended up using there's a bit of cleverness mixed into this, but for my trivia game, I used dynamic entities, which allowed me to replace the slot that I called answer with only the right answer. So as I ask you the question, I also insert the slot value that is the right answer, and that's the only slot value in my slot called answer. Then what I do is when you give me your answer, I have I can't remember if I did this with the search query slot or not, but I think I did. So I had a search query slot, and the search query slot was it's designed to catch everything. Like if you include the search query slot type in your skill, it catches almost literally everything. And so that can be good and bad. But in this case, it was good because it meant I could catch anything that a user might have said to me. And then I could compare whether or not that actually got me the entity resolution that I was looking for on my one answer. If it gave me my answer, awesome. If it didn't give me my answer, then I knew they were wrong. It didn't matter what they said. I just knew they were wrong. So I think it'll depend greatly on how things, what you're trying to accomplish, Drew. But in here, you said wrong answers. That makes me feel like you're thinking about a game or a trivia game or something like that. And so I have a GitHub repository on my own personal GitHub called Jeff Blankenburg. And the skill is called TKO Trivia. If you want to take a look at my interaction model and see how I did that there, you're more than welcome. But I think that's kind of how I solved it, was that if they said the right answer, it would obviously go to the slot. And if they said a wrong answer, the search query slot would catch it. And that told me instantly that they got the answer wrong, which is the thing that I cared about most. So hopefully that helps. But as far as fallback intent goes, yes, fallback intent is designed to catch things that are vastly out of bounds. This also applies to when people are inside your skill and they say something that is more a first-party experience, like what time is it, or give me the weather, if you're not a weather skill, right? And so the fallback intent should definitely hit on those kinds of things, because if that's not what your skill does, then it doesn't make sense for it to route it to your things. And then you can just say, hey, that's kind of out of scope for what this skill does. You can do X, Y, or Z. Which one would you like to do, right? And kind of redirect them back into whatever your skill is supposed to be doing. Okay, let's see. Let's see. W. Morgan says it would be great to have that feature enabled at one point. That was the account linking part. Okay. Brian Tarbock said that APL can definitely increase traffic and retention, but it's not a small effort. And I will agree with that. I've told many people. Have any of you guys built skills with APL? I'd like to include you if I can. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that or not. Is that a yes? Anybody built with APL? I will take your silence as no's, which is okay.
No.
The thing for me is, like, you can learn everything there is to know about skill development and not know anything about APL. And when you add APL, I feel like you almost double the size of the knowledge set that you have to have just to design for interfaces. It's a lot to consume. I think it's worth it. There's a lot of very cool, powerful things you can do with APL, but it is a lot more to learn. And so Brian's not kidding about that.
Jeff, I would just like to add something here. There was just an announcement at Alexa Live about the Alexa Learning Lab APL course. We would highly recommend it. We'll share the link here as well. It's a course that takes you from the basics to some of the advanced topics. So definitely recommend it for folks who are new to this. Just want to add that.
Yeah, that's a great tip. For those of you that aren't familiar, we launched something at Alexa Live called the Alexa Learning Lab. The intention of the Alexa Learning Lab is to have a whole bunch of courses that really take you on a deep dive through a bunch of complex subject matter, but it does it in a way where you're doing as you're learning. It's not just reading pages and checking boxes. You're actually writing code, and then it's validating to make sure that your code does what it's supposed to do, and it's an excellent experience. And so the Alexa Learning Lab, the first course we launched was around APL. So that's a great tip, Alcar. Thank you. Fangam says, I implemented all of the SQS recommendations, but my skill is still stuck at 3.6. What does it take to get a 5.0? This sounds like a question for you guys as far as the skill quality coach score goes.
Jeff, I can take that. So skill quality coach has a lot of factors built in for the score to come up. Without looking at the skill in detail, obviously I cannot comment on what sort of other recommendations could be added. So if we can have the skill ID, or if you can reach back to us at our email inbox, we will surely deep dive on the skill and reach back to you with further recommendations.
Okay. I'm going back to my question. I want to make sure I lost my spot. Where did it go? Oh, perfect. So I apologize. I want to make sure that I clarify. So if 3.6 is a pretty good score from what I understand from the skill coach, is there, I mean, maybe this is the better question to ask. Like, what percentage of skills do we expect could ever reach a 5.0 score? That seems like it's a very rare occurrence.
Yep.
Okay.
That's, yep.
Cool. All right. So let's continue moving on. David Curley on Twitch mentioned that he just joined the Skill Insights channel. He didn't even know about it until now. This is another recommendation to all of you that are in Slack. If you didn't know, there are many, many more channels available in Slack than the ones that you get by default. The Skill Insights one is a good example of that. So if you go to where you see channels in Slack, there's a little plus sign right next to the word channels. And if you click on that, you'll get an option to browse available channels. And there's probably 50 of them. And I think by default, you only get about 8. So it's definitely worthwhile to look and see what else is going on in there. You might be missing some really good conversations. Okay. So Hassan Najjar on YouTube, and he's asking Amkar, but I'll, if whoever wants to answer this question is great. But he says, what multimodal recommendations do you have for showing a map on an Alexa device screen?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So are you looking for technical recommendations here in terms of implementation?
I mean, that's what it sounds like, right? I mean, it'll take a little while to get a follow-up, but let's just take it at face value. If a developer wanted to render a map on an APL screen, do we have a recommendation outside of a static map image?
I would say, Jeff, I'm not very well versed with the implementation bit here, but from what I've seen so far, any graphic dynamic content, if you want to make it better, I think Alexa Web API is a great option. Do you agree? I mean, I would go with your recommendation there. Would Alexa Web API make sense for more dynamic or rich content?
Got it. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so W. Morgan, coming back to their question, is about the account linking stuff. They said that they're doing what our recommendation was, but they have to run the update account linking info command via the CLI. How can we do that via a CI/CD pipeline? CI/CD is continuous integration, continuous deployment. How can we do that via the pipeline? That's a good question. I don't know how we go about executing CLI commands in an environment like that, I will let me flag that and we'll see if we can dig up an answer. Someone has thought about this and how they can solve that problem. I'm not. Let's see if I can find. Okay, so one of the other questions that came in is from K-Man Studios. We were talking about something that was a little while ago, and he was working on an instrument skill, as I recall. But I'm trying to remember what he was trying to accomplish. So let me take a look here. I need instrument sounds at this point for her to say goodbye at the end. It might be in the code or something. Have a look. So help intent handler. Yeah, so K-Man, you can either put it in the chat of the Slack or here in the broadcast, but I don't know what the question is. I see that you you're trying to get her to say goodbye and play instrument sounds. That should be a simple audio tag as well as the word goodbye. You need to have an audio file for whatever instrument sounds you want to play. But I don't know what the issue that you're running into is, other than you want to play an instrument sound. If you look at our SSML documentation, there is an audio tag that you can use, and you just point at an MP3 file that you would need to have and that you would have the rights to play. But that should get you where you need to go. Okay. Let's see. Hassan Najjar says, when a user links to my skill via the web, is there any way to unlink the skill with the skill disable API from my app? I tried a reciprocal callback, but couldn't find a scope that would work for this. So I think what you're saying is that they're doing account linking on the web, and now you want to disable their account linking. I was pretty sure there's a command in the API for that. I would think so, but at a minimum, yeah, there has to be a command for that. I'm going to have to dig into this. I don't know this off the top of my head, but my imagination says that we're talking about an OAuth token. That's all that we're really doing here. Is we're just storing a token that we use for the ability to call your API as that user. There has to be a way to disable that. So we'll take a look. Okay, let's keep going here. Malero wants to know, are we allowed to share our scores? Is that a thing? Like, I would think that that's probably fine, but I'd love your perspectives on this.
It's completely fine. I don't think there is any issue in sharing score with each other, right? So,
right. Now, I actually haven't looked at a score for one of my skills yet. Is there like a little icon, or does it just happen to be some text that's on the console? Now I want to go look right now and see how badly you rated me.
You just have to go to any live skill. In analytics, on the left side, there is skill quality coach, and at the very, you'll see it in the middle itself, against name, should be there.
Got it. Okay, so my live skill that I use as an example quite often does not have very much traffic, and so as a result of that, I think that's probably why I don't have a score. But it's this. You have a beautiful chart. Actually, here I can share my screen briefly. If I get back to that window, let me share my screen. So this is the skill quality coach page for any of you that haven't seen this before. Actually, I'm not actually sharing it yet, am I? Oh yeah, I am. Okay. So this is kind of nice. You can kind of track it over time and see where our score goes But for this specific skill, I don't have any production data because it doesn't have a lot of users. Let me see if I have another one that might. That's Star Wars Data Bank. That one probably doesn't have any traffic. This one might. Let's see. I'll take a look. Yeah, this is not a good skill. I built this in about a half an hour, but it's 1.2 out of 5. Pretty good. I was wondering, like, this score here would be kind of cool to have it like on a badge of some kind, so that people could share it or like tweet about it or whatever. Might be an interesting way to let people know what's going on. But anyway, that's enough of sharing my screen. Just a cool idea. So Malero, it sounds to me like is giving you the green light if you want to share your score broadly. I think that's a great idea. Agency 2 wants to know where they submit their skills for scoring. So the good news is, as Rashad just covered, if you go to your skill that is published, right, it has to be a live skill. You can find this in the analytics tab. There's a skill quality coach tab there. We saw it there on the left-hand side. And that will be the place that you can find your score. So you don't have to submit at all. All skills are eligible if they are. Is there a list of requirements? It has to be published. It obviously has to have a little bit of traffic. So are there some rules to what qualifies somebody to actually get a score?
Jeff, it should be from ENUS local.
Oh yes, an ENUS locale. Thank you for qualifying that. But are those the 3 requirements? Right, today it's ENUS locale. A number of users. Do you have a number? Is there a specific number they have to have? If we can't talk about that, that's okay too. I'm just
Okay. It should have a certain number of users.
Okay, so there's a minimum number of users not to be published, and then the last piece was that it has to be a live published skill. Okay, right. That's good. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the hot seat there. I like to ask hard questions. That's all. All right, continuing on. There's a lot of good conversation happening here, but not questions specifically. David Curley's question was, isn't Web API still only for games? David, I do believe it is only for games. That is correct. I know that Amkar used that as a recommendation, but for games, it's a great solution. So if you had a game that included maps, that would be a good way to render a map. Okay.
But just to follow up on that one, do write into us or feel free to Slack me. We'll definitely get back on that one with more details. We'll follow it up internally. I'm referring to the maps question. Yeah, thanks.
Got it. All right. Every time I click off of the comments, I lose where I was. Okay. Alexing Learning Lab links were shared. Brian Tarbach shared an example on Twitch of something that our good friend Frank is doing with APL and ways to exit your skill. So Malero, yeah, you have to also select the ENUS as your version or it won't show it. Gavin Watson said, I received my first quality score a few days ago. It is low, and a sad face. K-Man Studios, where do I get audio files? Boy, that is a bigger question that I'm prepared to answer today. I'll do my very best. You can find audio files anywhere you want on the internet. The catch is you need to make sure that you are finding audio files that are licensed for use in that way. And so if you are just stealing an MP3 from someone's website, that is not the solution. But there are lots and lots of royalty-free music websites. There's one that I've used quite often called soundrangers.com, and they sell audio files, MP3s, WAV files, whatever. Most of them are $1 or $2, so they're very affordable, inexpensive. And they have a huge library. So if you're looking for the sound of a trombone or whatever instrument you're looking for, might be a good way to get started. And like I said, they only cost like a buck or two, so they're pretty affordable. Then once you've done that, you need to host them someplace. Usually I would recommend an S3 bucket or something like that, and then use the audio tag to point to that file that's living in the S3 bucket. So that is my long story to where do you get audio files for building for Alexa skills. Another recommendation, if you, we have a sound effects library. If you just search Alexa sound effects library, you'll find it. It'll be the first entry. We offer 3,018 sound effects. I only know that because I built an Alexa skill that will play any of them. I had to build a whole database around it. But I don't know if there are a ton of different instruments in there, but the sound effects library has some sounds that sound like instruments, bells and some other things, drums. And so if you find sound effects there in our sound effects library, it gives you exactly the code you need to use. You don't need to find your own files. You don't need to host them. You can just refer to them directly. And so that might also be a good place to get started. A. Witter says his best skill quality score is a 4.5. 4.5 is fantastic. That's great. Okay, so A. Witter says, one of my skills has the following skill quality coach insights. Considering adding built-in intents such as cancel intent, stop intent, and help intent to your skill to improve customer experience. However, those built intents are already in my skill and always have been. What's going on? I would imagine sometimes there are recommendations like this that a developer may have implemented or may have done in a slightly different way. Do you guys have any thoughts on why situations like that happen, though, where they're getting a recommendation for something that they may have already done?
Brian, so we have to take that as a case-to-case basis. If we just can share his skill ID, we can get back to him on that.
Okay. So, A. Witters, it sounds like maybe we open a contact us request for that, and we can they can take a look at it for you. It sounds like that's not supposed to happen, so we'll take a look. Malero says, my most popular skill hit 4.7 for about a week, and now it's dropped back down to 4.4. Skill quality score is a really cool metric, and I think it's going to help developers a lot. That's very nice, Malero. Thank you for sharing that. Brian Tarbox also mentioned, related to sound effects, that if you use sound or video files, which tend to be large, consider using something like CloudFront to reduce your skill latency and certainly your AWS bill. Because if you're just serving that up from another source, you could end up with a pretty impactful bill from AWS. Beauty Bubble on YouTube wants to know if there's any invocations focused on hurricane data. I don't actually know the answer to that, but I have a bunch of friends and colleagues in Florida right now, and I have to imagine I don't have any official word on this, but we're going to try it. Alexa, what's going on with Hurricane Ian?
Here's the story.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. So that's going to give me like a little video. I don't know that that's necessarily what you wanted. Alexa, show me the path of Hurricane Ian.
From fieldandtimes.co.uk. Ian is forecast to hit Cuba and then become an even stronger Category 4 hurricane with top winds of 140 miles per hour over warm Gulf of Mexico waters before striking Florida along a stretch of coast, including the Tampa Bay area.
Okay, Alexa, stop. So it didn't show me. I was hoping it would show me. So I don't know that there are any very specific utterances that will give you like pretty visuals and things about the hurricane data, but that was a very accurate description of the path that the hurricane is currently planning to take. So I know that there are entire teams that are focused on that very temporal kind of information and data, things that are happening right now. In addition to a number of other things, right? If you want to know about a specific sports team, it always knows what their current record is, what the stats of all the players are. Same for football and things like that. So I would expect that you can ask about those things, but I'm not aware of a specific utterance for Hurricane Ian other than what I just tried there. Okay. David Curley is looking for a way around the wall. Would adding some gamification into a skill let me also use the web API elsewhere in the skill? I'm thinking about my mapping skill, the one with the launch issue. I'd like to animate the route. And he wants to do that using web API, which is generally only for games. And certification will probably stop you if you don't provide a game. I don't know if gamification really will get you around that. As an example, this skill that I'm building for skill developers is it has tons and tons of achievements and things baked in to encourage you to explore and find more of the skill. But I don't know that would qualify me as a game. My suspicion is that it also requires the category that you choose when you publish to be games, which I would imagine a skill that you're building that is for mapping, as an example, would not fall into that category. And they would say, your skill is miscategorized. And then 2, because it's miscategorized, you can't use Web API for games because it's not a game. So, yeah, David, I like the enthusiasm, but I think probably that will be met with a resounding no. Okay, K-Man Studios is asking for a link to the sound effect library. It looks like my folks behind the scenes have provided that, so that's great. W. Giorgio says, I'm seeing a lot of people drop out or say help almost immediately when I have a tutorial at the beginning of my launch of his game Space Marauders, and he doesn't understand why. It's possible, especially with tutorials. I think about playing like the walkthrough or the tutorial sometimes on mobile games or even on like console games. A lot of times you're like, yeah, I don't care about any of this. I just want to get to the game. It may be that they're looking for a way to get past your tutorial. And while your tutorial is probably mandatory or necessary or very, very important, for those that want to get past it, maybe consider giving them an option to skip it. I think maybe they're saying help or leaving because they don't want to do your tutorial. They just want to play the game. That's only a suspicion. Obviously, I don't have access to any of your data, but that's one way I could see that potentially being affecting your skill.
Yeah, I would just like to add something there. So when we analyze skills, we've seen this fact that a lot of skills that do well are the ones that directly get to the point, what the customer is looking for. So I think, like Jeff says, giving an option to skip or putting it as an option where you just give a brief understanding of how to play the game and maybe ask them, let them ask for help if they need more, is definitely worth trying.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So Brian Tarbock said he had a skill that was at 4.0 that dropped to 3.1. He thinks because of a fallback intent related issue. Jay on YouTube says, how do I integrate Pandas library for data analytics in Alexa Developer Console? I've been stuck at this thing for a while and I'm not sure how to do it. Jay, I'm not familiar enough with that library to know what you're trying to accomplish. I have used a couple of other analytics packages, third-party analytics packages, even before we offered analytics in the developer console itself. And I know it can sometimes be a little tricky. You're going to have to fundamentally change a little bit about how your opening Alexa index.js file, or if you're working in Python, how those files are structured a little bit to kind of wrap the analytics around all of that. But I don't know specifically. I'd be happy to take a look. If you want to share your code with me on Slack, I can take a look at it and see if I can help. But my hope is that the Pandas library would have some documentation that might help you with that as well. Okay. Malero says, yeah, the fluctuations in skill quality score are interesting. I think you have to look at other metrics to try to identify the increase or the drop. I believe mine hit a 4.7 after a content update and more people were playing. I'm not 100% sure, but that's my theory. And it looks like some people have opened some cases with the skill quality coach and the insights. So A. Witters has opened a contact us case with you guys about his recommendation that he has already implemented. So hopefully you guys can take a look at that.
Yes.
One of the things that Fangam says is it would be really nice to have some insights as to why my score changed. I didn't touch anything. Why did I go from a 4.7 to a 4.3? That might be harder for you guys to provide, but it might be something to think about as we go forward. What is it about what is going on that lowered my score without me as the developer changing anything? And then David Curley also says, for the future, I'd love to see a playbook from the lessons you guys are learning about how and when people implement specific recommendations. This might even be something that we could funnel into the Alexa design guide tips and tricks for how do you get a skill to market? What are the best ways to engage your audience? What are the best ways to keep a high skill quality score beyond just implementing the things? Maybe there's ways to implement it or best approaches we can look at as you guys continue to move forward. That might be some interesting data as well. Well, we are almost out of time. It's been an hour already, and I feel like we've only just gotten started. So I want to make sure we give you guys just a moment to say goodbye, or have you have any parting thoughts or anything. But I do want to thank all three of you for being here and for sharing, no pun intended, your insights on Skill Insights. So I thank you very much for being here, guys.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, guys. And I really like David's suggestion. David, please watch the blog space. We're definitely going to write more about improvement recommendations in more detail. So keep watching that space for more. Thanks a lot, Jeff. It was great being here.
Certainly.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everyone. It was great to see interest around the insights and SQS, SQC. We'll surely get back with the queries that the team had. I know the developers had shared the skill IDs and aviators had shared the case IDs. So we'll get back on that one. Thank you.
Very good.
And lastly, thanks everyone for listening to us. Probably this is the first experience, but really great. Thanks, Jeff, for inviting us, and this was really great, really great experience for us.
No, I think this was really good. I could see trying to bring you guys back maybe once a quarter to talk about new insights that we've recognized or things that we can do. So this was fantastic. I'm glad you guys could make it, and I hope we can get you back here again very soon.
Sure. Really look forward to future collaboration.
And thank you to all of you for tuning in and for your fantastic questions. As I say every week, this show doesn't happen without all of you and your, all the work you spend on your skills, taking the time to work through those things and fight through battles that you might be having with our tech docs or with an API or whatever it is, and then to bring those insights back to us so that we can make things better. You're helping us complete that loop, and it really makes a big impact on the product. So thank you guys all for tuning in. We will be back here again next Tuesday. Everybody take care and have a great week. Bye.